Today, we're going to be talking about the state of the console edition of Rust. I got back from a long hiatus from playing the game because no, I wasn't in prison. I didn't get caught trying to join the Mile High Club solo. No. I was actually stuck in quarantine in something far worse than prison, a 5-star hotel. You're not looking at your roommate's, you're looking at a 5-star beach that you're paying for and you can't use. Now that is truly a crime. Anyways. Now, what happened is basically I went away for a while, went on vacation, got stuck over somewhere, and now I'm back, and I decided to sit down and play the game I love so much, Rust. And I decided to play it on my handy dandy Xbox Series S. So I log into the game, I play for 20, 30 minutes, and guess what happens? The game crashes. Now, I'm not the sort of person who thinks that a Big Mac is a healthy meal, so I expected that there will be some issues. The game is not going to be perfect. So I started the game up again and began playing. And guess what happened after 20 or 30 minutes? It crashed again. This happened a few times in a row. Now, this is something that was not happening before I left on my hiatus. So I'm sitting there wondering how the game has gotten into a worse state. When guess what happens? I get into a gunfight. Now you're thinking, Serial, I know what happens. You get killed because you sucked. Well, that's true. But I also got killed because the game started lagging on me. I shot my shotgun and the game lagged. The reason that these two things are so maddening to me is because these issues were not issues when I last played the game. Before I got put in prison, quarantine, before I was quarantined, when I played the game, I was not crashing all the time. I have multiple 1-hour recordings, which is how long my Xbox Series S will record for, on my hard drive. So obviously the game was playing fine. I was going for 3-4 hour sessions and no crashes were occurring. Also, I'd shoot a gun and no lag was occurring. So before I left, the game was in a better state than it is when I came back. And the reason I'm making a video about this is because it didn't really even surprise me that much. I was like, is this even something noteworthy? Is this something worth discussing? But one of the things I want to do, and a lot of people get upset with me because they say I'm talking bad about the game and I'm not bringing new players in. Well, that's not my job. My job is to give everybody the information. Basically, it's to portray my experience in the game and to help you out. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to help you out by getting the message out that this game is not in a good state. D11 needs to put more resources into it. They need to focus on less crashing, and they need to stop with this sort of obsession with monuments. They're releasing the cargo ship monument. There is a team working on the cargo ship monument. But if you survey the players, if you talk to people who are playing the game, a lot of people aren't excited for the cargo ship monument because they don't have a game that they think can even handle the cargo ship monument. If you're crashing every 20 or 30 minutes, you can't handle an oil rig. You can't handle a cargo ship because what's going to happen is you run over there. By the time you're getting countered, your game crashes, and then it comes down to whoever is able to stay online the longest. Not because they're the best, not because they didn't die, but because their game simply didn't crash. That's not a game you want to play. That's a game of luck. If you want to play a game like that, go to a casino. But it's just like, I don't understand how we're in this situation. In addition to this, when gunfights are laggy, that doesn't even motivate me to get to a T2 or a T3 because guess what? It's going to lag and I'm going to lose the gun anyways. I might as well run around with a shotty and try and one-shot people because I get one shot, the game lags, and then we see what happens. A lot of people, they're playing with that PS5, they're playing with that Xbox Series S, and they might not be getting the same experience that I am. In fact, there's people with the Xbox Series S that are not getting the same experience that I am. And I don't even understand why that's the case. We all have the same hardware. I'm assuming we all have similar connections. My connection's actually not that bad. I've got a really fast internet connection, so I just don't understand what's going on here. Maybe it's, I'm playing on Wi-Fi. Maybe that's it. I just don't know. I've got to do some experimentation, I guess. But that's not something that should be on me. And that's something that if someone comes into the game and they experience these issues, new player, they're not going to stick around for that. They're either going to go to the PC version Rust, which you should probably just buy the PC version Rust if you can play it and go with that, or they're just going to leave the game and not come back to it. And that is not good because right now when I look at the community, I see a community that isn't really growing. It's not shrinking, granted. But it's a community that's very stable right now, but it's only going to be stable for a limited amount of time. As new games come out, people are going to be sucked away from the community because a game like Rust, I don't think it has that holding power that the PC version of Rust does. The PC version of Rust allows for more creativity because there's just more things to do. There's more communication. There's things like signs. There's more customization, and a lot of that we're not allowed to have on the console edition of Rust. I've talked to devs about it. It's not something that they chose to do, but signage is not something that they can even allow in game. So you're never going to get signs. You're never going to be able to put up a sign that says newbie spawn point to try and get everybody over. You're never going to be able to put up a sign that says, hey, mic's on, I won't shoot, to try and get people to talk. There's just a lot of stuff that's going on the PC version of Rust that is never going to be possible in the console version of Rust. So devs are already handicapped, but when you're looking at a game and people are joining and they're crashing every 20 to 30 minutes, they're getting lag when they try and shoot any sort of gun that's good, they're not going to stick around for that experience, because Rust is a game with an extremely, extremely brutal skill curve. And while you're dying and losing hours of work, the last thing you want to be doing is dying, losing hours of work because of bugs in the game. When people get that experience, they leave the game and they never come back. In fact, when that happens to me, I get frustrated. One of the reasons you don't see much gameplay from me of a T3 or even a T2 is because I know if I get to that point and I die, or because there's some nerf or drop boxes all of a sudden don't work and I lose my whole base, that's going to upset me to the point where I just decide I'm not going to be playing anymore. And I do love the game. I love spawning into the game and just going for that 20-minute sort of drop in and see what you can do run. But I don't want to put a ton of time into it because I don't want to lose that time. I don't want to lose all that effort I put into a bug. I don't want to lose all that effort that I put into lag or anything like that. I want to lose it to a player legitimately. Now, it is annoying when someone kills you with Zim, or they kill you with when someone's cheating and they kill you, basically. But at least that's a person that killed you. At least that's something where you think, hey, maybe I could have gotten the better of him. He might have a keyboard and mouse, but I could have still snuck up behind him. I still could have tried to position differently. Like, you got outplayed in some way. There was always some situation where you could have had the upper hand and won that gunfight, or generally there is, right? But when it's a crash, when it's a bug, when it's the game lagging, there's no situation where that would work for you. So that is where I'm at right now. And that's why I'm saying this is unacceptable. The state of the console edition of Rust is unacceptable, because right now, the state that it's in, the developers are pushing forward with new features, new guns, new monuments, and the players are still experiencing bugs that are affecting their gameplay daily. When you're experiencing crashes daily, that affects your game. When you're experiencing lag when you shoot most of the time, that is something that seriously affects the game, and that is something that seriously needs to be worked on first and foremost. This is not a competitive shooter, so you can't expect it to be competitive shooter levels. I understand that. But it still is a survival game with a focus on gear that takes hours to acquire. It takes a lot of time to acquire. And when you've got that focus on that type of gear, on that type of stress, on that type of those type of stakes, is a bare minimum, in my opinion, of gameplay, of sort of feeling that needs to be met. And that bare minimum is you're not crashing too often. You're not lagging when you shoot a lot of the time. You're able to actually play the game and feel like when you lost, it was not due to an issue with the game. And right now, I just don't feel like that's the case. So yeah, I wanted to make this video out of frustration partially. And I understand I might be being a little harsh in this video, but I wanted to vent a little bit. And I wanted to also just discuss why this is such a big issue. Because when I see developers sort of ignoring these issues, focusing on pushing through to monuments and things like that, I'm thinking maybe they're not getting the full picture. Maybe people working on the game aren't playing the game like you and I are. And that's completely fine. Like, I've worked on a ton of products. I've developed a ton of products that I don't really use myself. Sometimes I can't even use those products because of the use case they're being developed for. I understand, like, if there's a developer out there who he's working 10 hours a day, he's got kids, he's got friends, he's got trips, he's got things that he's got to do, or she, I don't want to be sexist. There's female developers. There's not as many of them, unfortunately, but there are. But if they're working on something, right, they're doing it day in and day out, maybe they just don't want to go home and do that. Like, I used to love programming, but I don't like to go home and program because that's what I work with on a daily basis. Maybe Rust devs, they love programming, they love Rust, but they don't want to go home and play the game on a daily basis. So they only play it in the office. And when they play it, they're just given the guns to play with. They play versus each other and they play for 20, 30 minutes. And they're thinking, hey, this isn't that bad. It's a crash here, a crash there, a little bit of lag. What's the big deal? Well, this isn't a game like Call of Duty where a little bit of lag, you log back in and you've got your gun. This is Rust. When you lose that gun, you're losing hours of work. And I think part of the disconnect might be that they're not understanding that those are the stakes that we're dealing with when we play the game. The stakes are you're losing a lot of time when these bugs occur and knock you out. When someone has a Dropbox issue and they can't get into their base, they could be losing probably tens of hours of work on that base. There's a potential that they lose a whole wipe. They lose a whole weekend that they work to build something that they're planning to use throughout the week. I think one of the things is if the devs understand these stakes, if they understand what some of these players are experiencing, they'll be a little bit more willing to release emergency patches to reverse releases. For the Dropbox issue, all they'd have to do is reverse the patch that they did. They've got to say like, hey, look, this is affecting maybe 2-3% of players. Those players put a lot of time into the game. Those are players who are really dedicated to this game. So what we're going to do is we're going to revert what we just released. We're going to move everything back. Dropboxes are going to work again, and we're going to try again in a month, because that is the right approach to take. Even if it seems like it's only affecting a small percentage of the players, over time, these issues are going to affect almost every player that plays the game, and we would all really appreciate it. Instead of just being told to suck it up, if just being told to make a new base, the devs go ahead and just roll back the changes that they made. Or if the patch is released and the bug is discovered, maybe make an announcement that the players can all see. Put it on the main Rust screen that says, hey, Dropboxes don't work. Maybe disable Dropboxes. Do something that allows players to know that this item is no longer working as expected, so don't waste your hard-earned time trying to use it, because people are still building Dropbox bases, and those bases are still being forced to decay. I get comments on my videos almost every day, or maybe every couple days, about people who built Dropbox bases and are upset because they can't get access to them. They can't use them anymore because the Dropbox doesn't function. And it's not even me that this is affecting, but it still upsets me because it's affecting people who are in my community. It's affecting people who really want to love this game, who really want to play this game, who want to put hours and hours and hours of their time into this game. And it's letting them put those hours in, but taking the fun away, the fun that they're aiming for, the fun that they're trying to achieve. It's being taken away because of these silly little mistakes that could easily be fixed. So yeah, hopefully this message gets through to the people who need to hear it. And if you agree with what I'm saying, if you understand what I'm saying, if you feel that same frustration, please make sure you comment below. Make sure you hit the like button just so the devs know that this isn't just Serial Overdrive making a video trying to make some money. This is a Serial Overdrive talking about an issue that affects other people in the community besides myself. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, hitting the subscribe button is much appreciated. But if you don't, it's still cool. Until next time, peace.